Today, the world's most murderous and bloodthirsty terror group celebrated Anthony Albanese's decision to recognise a Palestinian state. The group that decapitated babies, shot parents in front of their children, and hunted down teenagers dancing at a music festival is on the same page as Albanese and praises his political courage. This tells you everything that is wrong with the morally corrupt and disgraceful Albanese government. We said over and over again that recognising a Palestinian state rewards Hamas for October 7. And Albanese angrily claimed on television that it wasn't what the terror group wanted.
And Hamas, I've seen some of the comments that have been made about Hamas somehow being rewarded. Hamas is opposed to two states. This is the opposite of what Hamas wants. Hamas will be totally opposed to this decision. Hamas do not want this. Hamas don't want two states.
As usual, he was 100% wrong. And this isn't surprising because Albanese is not terribly bright or well-informed, and he's developed a reputation by those who know him for avoiding the detail, the facts. He's also got his lifelong history as a pro-Palestinian activist, and this has been driving him as Prime Minister. And so today, the news that one of Hamas's most senior officials in the West Bank, Sheikh Hassan Yousef, told the Sydney Morning Herald, "We welcome Australia's decision to recognise the state of Palestine and consider it an important step towards achieving justice for our people and securing their legitimate rights. This position reflects political courage and a commitment to the values of justice and the right of peoples to self-determination." And how can Hamas speak about justice? But Hamas praising Albanese for political courage is despicable. And Hamas holds Albanese up as the model nation, calling on other countries to, and I quote, "follow Australia's example." Yousef also told Matthew Knott in the Herald that the escalation of armed resistance, including on October 7, had encouraged countries like Australia to recognise a Palestinian state, so directly citing the massacre of October 7 there. Now, this was a wake-up call to the government, to Australians, everyday Australians, and to the journalists who interviewed Albanese and Penny Wong in recent days and naively swallowed their spin. But it shouldn't come as a surprise because despite Albanese's insistent and desperate denials, Hamas has been making similar statements for a while. Here's Hamas's official Ghazi Hamid speaking to Al Jazeera 10 days ago.
7 أكتوبر هذه الضربة القوية التي وجهت إلى إسرائيل أنا أعتقد أعطت 3 إنجازات تاريخية كبيرة جدا. أول شيء إن هي أعادت القضية الفلسطينية. اليوم ليش كل الدول، أعطيني بس أقول لك مثل، ليش كل الدول أصبحت تعترف بفلسطين الآن؟
But Hamas's praise today for Australia directly is a new low. These terrorists raped girls and burnt alive women, children, men on October 7. There was no mercy, just the worst cruelty humanity has experienced. It is now inarguable that Albanese is a terrorist appeaser. And I'm just going to repeat that point because it is important. Albanese is a terrorist appeaser. Shadow Foreign Affairs Minister Michaelia Cash was on 2GB earlier and she made a similar point.
This is a shocking endorsement by a Labor Prime Minister from a terrorist leader. Quite frankly, Mr Albanese should hang his head in shame. This government is about rewarding terrorists.
Yep, she's been very impressive and she'll be on this show tomorrow night at 8 o'clock, so don't miss that. Now, the Wall Street Journal made the same point rather succinctly in their editorial on the push by progressive Western nations to recognise a Palestinian state. Their headline read, "Kill Jews, get your own state." And that is the bottom line. When the Albanese government's policies are aligned with a brutal terrorist group, and not with our traditional allies like America and Israel, you know there's a serious problem. And it's a red flag that Albanese will meet with the corrupt anti-Semite Palestinian leader Mahmoud Abbas before he even meets with United States President Donald Trump, who was elected 9 months ago. US Secretary of State Marco Rubio got it 100% right when he said this of the move to recognise a Palestinian state.
Well, have you noticed that the talks with Hamas fell apart on the day Macron made the unilateral decision that he's going to recognize a Palestinian state?
So ironic that a move to supposedly end the war has only prolonged it and made peace less likely, and made it less likely that the hostages will come home. And now Hamas will not engage in future talks because it already has the outcome it desired. It wants a Palestinian state to launch its weapons from, and then it wants to destroy Israel. Even Western Palestinians are taking up this campaign. The father of Hollywood stars Bella and Gigi Hadid, and the father himself has 1.5 million followers, he posted this on Instagram. We no longer demand a ceasefire, we demand an end to the state of Israel. And this is what some from the pro-Palestinian movement are calling for: the destruction of Israel, from the river to the sea, global intifada, no more Zionists. These are racist and cruel demands. Now, the 90,000 or so people who marched over the Harbour Bridge in the name of the Palestinian cause perhaps don't realise that Israel already unilaterally withdrew from Gaza in 2005. In fact, it was 20 years ago this week when 9,000 Jews left behind their homes to give the Palestinians sovereignty and their own land. Not a single Jew remained in Gaza. In an incredible address to the United Nations, the Israeli Prime Minister at the time, Ariel Sharon, said it was now up to the Palestinians to prove their desire for peace.
The end of Israeli control over and responsibility for the Gaza Strip allows the Palestinians, if they so wish, to develop their economy and build a peace-seeking society which is developed, free, law-abiding, transparent, and which adheres to democratic principles.
That was Ariel Sharon's vision. Yet instead of embracing independence and peace, all that's eventuated is terrorism for Israelis and deprivation for Palestinians. Tens of billions of dollars in international aid or more went into a sophisticated tunnel network, while civilian infrastructure was built over Hamas hideouts and weapons stockpiles. Equally as sobering is the Palestinian Centre for Policy and Survey Research in The Australian today that shows there's still widespread support for Hamas. Ben Packham reports that 67% of Palestinians in the West Bank are satisfied with Hamas and 43% in Gaza. And this is compared to the Palestinian Authority, which enjoys less than 30% support in the Palestinian territories. And then you've got support for Mahmoud Abbas, sits at just 15%. 15. And The Australian reports that an overwhelming 77% of respondents opposed the disarmament of Hamas in Gaza in order to stop the war, despite Abbas's assurances to Albanese that this would occur. Albanese and Wong are detached from reality if they think Hamas will suddenly agree to lay down arms and the Palestinian Authority will miraculously embrace peace. Albanese has been seriously misled by Mahmoud Abbas, and the pair were naive to believe him, because Hamas has no intention of giving up their weapons or any control of Gaza. The group that committed such cruelty 22 months ago, provoking this war and still refusing to end it by releasing the innocent hostages. The lesson learned today is that just as young, brave Jews are risking or even sacrificing their lives trying to defeat Hamas, foolish Western leaders are empowering the terrorist group. It's a far cry from the rational Western leaders of the past who successfully led forces to defeat ISIS, Al-Qaeda, and the Nazi regime. As history tells us, the only way to achieve peace is to defeat terrorism.